Hi, my name is Allyson Edwards, and this is for Education in STEM 604 STEM Exploration, and the date is December 13th, 2019. Okay, first, I want to talk about my STEM unit plan. My curriculum is using iHub, which the state of Louisiana uses in correlation with our LEAP 2025 test, so it kind of goes along with those type of test questions. The assessments are similar, but I have found that it is a really great resource for STEM-based learning, especially after taking some of the STEM classes through LSUS. So the unit we're on now is genetics. There are three major units. The first one was evolution, and this one that we're leading into is genetics. We ended evolution talking about competitive advantage and heritable traits, so it kind of opened up some questions into more specific things about genetics and like how these things actually get passed down, what the details of the process are. So to start off this unit, I chose to implement my STEM unit plan at the very beginning of this unit. I usually start the unit off with a phenomena video, and the first one was the unit with evolution was about a little girl who had a bacterial infection, and we covered, followed her story and answered questions about it through that. Well, this one was a short video, and it just showed patients or people with a certain disorder, and I never told them what it was. And there was no real like talking in the video, except maybe just talking between like the people with the disorder and like their family members, whoever was in the video. It wasn't a lot of talking though, and so it just kind of let them listen and watch, and they had them write down observations that they noticed about maybe the people in the video, what they look like, if they were young or old, or boys or girls. And then we talked about it. And then after we talked about it, and kind of like, we always make a driving question board, and so all my students write down on a Post-it note like 2 questions. We start off with 1 question, and then we kind of do some sort of system. Sometimes it's like a round robin. Sometimes they do like the snowball, like where they take the question, throw it across the room, and whoever, you pick it up and you read that question. Just different things, different ways we go through the questions. So we read one, and then I give them time to come up with a new question, like as they hear other people's questions. So we write those on the board. I put them on a big board. And so we have all these questions about this disorder, and they still don't know what it is. So finally, I like to do that because I think it really gets their juices flowing, and their curiosity piques it without them like knowing the answer right off the bat. So next, I just give them the name of it, and it's Duchenne muscular dystrophy. So we talk about the name a little bit, and then I say, okay, I'm gonna put you in, small groups, and they all have Chromebooks, access to their own Chromebooks, and we do a lot through Google Classroom. So I tell them you're gonna use Google Slides. I give them a rubric, one of the ones that we use in this class, and I tell them we're gonna, you're gonna present, do a little research on this. It was short, 5 slides. Give us the most important information you think in regards to the questions that we came up with, that you think that you can find about Duchenne. I just gave them a period. It wasn't like a huge research project. I just wanted them to explore and do some finding out on their own without me just telling them what it is. So the next day, they presented their PowerPoints. They got in front of the class, and we even had a little Q&A session where they asked questions, and I asked them questions, and then we would talk about things. So it was really, really great. I think they really loved that addition to the iHub curriculum. And also, I had them do a self-reflection, and I had them do a rubric on their peers that they worked with in collaboration with. And overall, I thought it was a really successful lesson. I know that I didn't get to cover everything that I wanted to for this class in those first 3 days of the unit plan, but I use a lot of net logo simulations, computer simulations, and I'm not really sure where I came across that, if it was this class or another class with STEM here, but I love their simulations. We used several last unit with bacteria, and you could I could have them set up a simulation, and I could have them play with the different bacteria and see how fast they reproduce, put them in different places. They had a lot of fun with that. And so in this one, we're going to do a little genetic manipulating. They get to kind of play with it, see what happens when they change certain letters out of the genetic code and things like that. So I'm really looking forward to using that in the next few lessons. Also, through this website specifically, when I was looking through the National Science Foundation website, I found an article on Duchenne muscular dystrophy and the advances of CRISPR using in genetic engineering, which is perfect because the second half of my unit we work into genetic engineering, and we actually touch on CRISPR, so it was perfect. So I can't wait for them to use that resource also. So overall, I was super happy with the way they responded to it. I definitely think my room is not quite set up for them to give presentations. It's kind of my projection screen is kind of in an odd space. It's fine for me, but when there was 3 or 4 of them up there trying to give a presentation, it did make it a little awkward. I think I'm going to try to rearrange over the Christmas break my room so I can maybe implement a few more of those into my lessons. So next, the course readings. I really love the project-based learning reading. I used project-based learning, or what I thought project-based learning was, which it was. I used a lot of it in my English classes when I taught English too. And I just did not, I don't know why, I just did not put the 2 and 2 together that I could use similar techniques in my biology class. The way I was taught biology, even though my teacher was fabulous, I love him dearly, but it was very much him do demonstrations for us sometimes, which were awesome and we loved. And we did do a few labs, but most of the content that we got was out of the book and him lecturing and talking about it. He was a great teacher, but we were book-centered, I think, a lot. And so I love this new way of teaching that allows me to get away from the book. Like, we never open a textbook, which I know is good in some classes, and I'm not knocking it. If you use a textbook, that's great, but I think we have so much freedom from the book. We're not tied down to what we have to, what we have to teach. Like, every day my lesson starts with a question and we end with a question. We start with the question we had from the day before. How can we answer this question? We do simulations or investigations and things to try to answer those questions, and then we talk about the questions we still have left. Like, okay, so what do we not know? What do we need to know? What are we trying to figure out? What did today lead us to? And then we start out the next day with that new question. So I just think it's a really great way to run your classroom. I teach with a lot of teachers that taught my age or me when I was growing up. And so they definitely have a different style. And some of them are interested in doing this phenomenon-based learning style. And I tell them, like, they're nervous. And I'm like, just do it. Just jump in. Just start off and don't look back, because that's the easiest way to do it. If not, if you try to, I found that if I tried to mix the two or ease into it, it's just like confusing more for my kids and more for me. So I did better personally when I just, let go of what I was used to or what I thought biology, how it should be taught, and just went with it. And iHub has been a godsend to me because it's really allowed me a lot of good resources to jump off with. I love the project-based learning and what it is. I love the 5E model. I have it posted in my room. We refer to it all the time. NICERC is amazing. I have already implemented the egg drop activity in my physics class, a version of it that I pulled from NICERC. I even have adapted some chemistry lessons from NICERC. I love NICERC. And I know I'm using National Science Foundation article for this lesson, but I also have to incorporate, our test has a lot of nonfiction articles, graphs, charts, and I feel like it was a very age-appropriate place to find really current and modern, things that are going on in our world today, videos, articles and things like that I could introduce them to and read with them. We could study or investigate together. Great resource too. I love those. Those were some of my favorites. Overall, I felt like the class was, a great introduction to STEM exploration. Lots of great resources to use. I've tried to use some already, and I plan to use some later in the next unit also for my ecology unit. Like I said, the best way to incorporate STEM is to I feel like, just do it. Just make a conscious effort to include these investigation type, and it doesn't always have to be something grand and some huge experiment or some really expensive project. It can be just like these little projects, and like I took those 3 days to let them just investigate on their own. I felt like they were so accomplished when they felt like they had found the information, and I just didn't write it on the board and have them take notes of the symptoms and the treatments and it didn't give them too detailed, so there's a lot left for me to build on, but it gave me something to build on. Like, okay, it's only in males. Okay, so what does that mean? Like, how is that possible? Like, how can it just be only males? Like, and it just gets their juices flowing and their mind going. So I've really enjoyed the class, and I've really enjoyed all the resources that were provided in the class. And I hope everyone has a Merry Christmas or Happy Holidays. Thank you.